Hello everyone, and welcome to Little Stories Around Us, simple English stories that touch your heart and help you grow. There are moments in life when you look up at the stars and whisper your dreams into the night sky. You wonder if they will ever come true, or if they will just fade away like the wind. I used to do that every night when I was younger. I dreamed of a better life, not only for myself, but for my family too. I didn't know how to make it happen, but I knew I had to try. My father once told me, "Tom, dreams are not free. You must work for them." Those words became the light that guided me through everything that came next. I was 20 years old, living in a small, quiet town surrounded by green hills and clear rivers. My father, John, worked as a mechanic, fixing old cars from morning until night. My mother, Mary, cleaned houses for other families. My little sister, Lily, was only 10, but she was always full of hope. Our house was small, but it was filled with love. Still, I could see how tired my parents were every day. I wanted to help them, but I didn't know how. One cold evening, I sat outside our house, looking at the stars. I whispered, "I want to give my family a better life. But where do I start when I have nothing?" The next morning, I shared my thoughts with my father. He smiled sadly and said again, "Tom, dreams are not free. If you want something, start with what you have, even if it's small." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what he said. Then an idea came to me. Everyone in town loved fresh bread, but the nearest bakery was far away. What if I sold bread right here in our town? It sounded simple, but I had no money to buy any. Still, I decided to try. The next day, I walked many miles to the bakery in the next town. The owner was an old man named Mr. Brown. He didn't smile much and looked strict, but I gathered my courage and said, "Sir, I want to sell your bread in my town. I don't have money to buy it now, but if you let me take it for 1 week, I'll sell it, return your money, and keep a small profit." Mr. Brown looked at me for a long time. "Why should I trust you?" he asked. I took a deep breath and said, "Because I'm honest and I will work hard to prove myself." After a moment of silence, he finally said, "All right, I'll give you bread for 1 week. If you fail to pay me back, don't come here again." I was overjoyed. The next morning, I woke up early, carried baskets of bread on my back, and walked home. I set up a small wooden stand near the park and called out, "Fresh bread, warm and delicious." At first, people didn't trust me. They walked past without stopping. But I offered free samples, and slowly, a few people smiled and bought some. By sunset, I had sold everything. That evening, I walked all the way back to Mr. Brown's bakery and paid him. He nodded and said, "You kept your word. Come back tomorrow." From that day, I worked harder than ever. I woke up at 4 a.m. every morning, walked to the bakery, carried the bread back, and sold it all day. My hands hurt, my legs were tired, but my heart was full. After 2 months, I had saved enough money to buy a small cart. I could finally carry more bread and reach more people. One day, a kind old customer said, "Tom, you sell bread so well. Why don't you learn to bake it yourself? You could earn more." His words stuck in my mind. The idea excited me, but it also scared me. I had never baked before, but I knew he was right. I couldn't depend on Mr. Brown forever. So, the next morning, I asked Mr. Brown, "Sir, could you teach me how to bake?" He frowned. "Why should I teach you? If you learn, you won't need me anymore." I smiled and said, "You gave me my first chance. I'll never forget that. If I succeed, I'll help your bakery too." Mr. Brown looked at me and finally said, "All right, but baking is not easy. It takes patience and hard work." The next morning, I arrived at his bakery before sunrise. The air smelled of warm flour and butter, Mr. Brown showed me how to knead the dough, shape the loaves, and bake them to golden perfection. My hands were sore, and my first breads came out too hard or too soft. I failed again and again. One evening, after ruining another batch, I sat outside feeling broken. "Maybe I'm not good enough," I whispered. But then I remembered my father's voice. Dreams are not free. I stood up, wiped my tears, and promised myself to keep going. Slowly, I improved. I learned how the dough should feel, how long to bake it, how to listen to the bread as it rose in the oven. 2 weeks later, Mr. Brown smiled and said, "This is perfect, Tom. You're ready." I was overjoyed. I rented a small oven and started baking bread at home. My family helped me. Lily packed the bread, and my mother managed tea while I worked late into the night. Soon, I wasn't just selling bread. I started making cookies and pastries too. People loved them. They said, "Tom's bread tastes better than anything we've had before." But success doesn't stay easy for long. One day, a new bakery opened in town. The owner, a young man named Alex, had a big, beautiful shop full of lights and colorful signs. People were curious and started buying from him instead. My sales dropped. Fear crept into my heart. What if I lost everything? I didn't panic. Instead, I asked my customers, "What do you like about Alex's shop? What can I do better?" Some said, "His shop looks cleaner." Others said, "His cakes are beautiful." I realized I had to grow, not just as a baker, but as a businessman. Using my savings, I painted my cart bright colors, added flowers, and offered free samples of my new pastries. I even went to the library to watch videos about cake decoration. Slowly, people started coming back. One evening, an old woman told me, "I've seen many young men give up when things get hard, but you didn't. That's why we trust you." Her words warmed my heart. Months passed, and my business grew again. I finally rented a small shop. It wasn't big, but it was full of light and warmth. I called it Tom's Fresh Bakes. My family helped me every day. Lily loved talking to customers, and my mother managed the money. I thought I had finally made it. But life still had more tests for me. One stormy night, while I was closing the shop, I saw smoke rising near the oven. A small fire had started. I rushed inside and tried to stop it with water. I managed to put it out, but much of my equipment was damaged. The next morning, people came to see what had happened. Some said, "Oh no, poor Tom." Others whispered, "Maybe this is the end for him." For a moment, I felt crushed. But then I looked at my burnt oven and said to myself, "This is not the end. This is another challenge." I took a deep breath and began to plan. I didn't have enough money to replace everything, but I refused to give up. I went to visit Mr. Brown, who had already retired. I asked, "Sir, what would you do if you were me?" He smiled and said, "Tom, you already know the answer. You've learned that nothing is free. Work hard again, and people will believe in you." I started baking at home with the little equipment I had left. I told my customers, "I'll keep serving you, even if it's just a few loaves a day." People were moved. Some donated ingredients, others gave money, and some even helped me clean and rebuild. I realized something powerful. When you never give up, people will stand beside you. Months later, my bakery reopened, brighter than ever. I added new cakes, muffins, and cupcakes. On the opening day, the mayor came and said, "Tom, you've inspired the whole town. You've shown us that hard work and faith can overcome anything." I looked at the crowd and said, "Thank you, everyone. You've taught me that dreams are not free, not success, not love, not respect. Everything must be earned with patience and persistence. But if you keep going, anything is possible." From that day, Tom's Fresh Bakes became more than a bakery. It became a place of hope. People came not just for the bread, but for the story of the boy who never gave up. And that boy was me. Thank you for listening to this story on Little Stories Around Us. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe so you can enjoy more stories that help you improve your English and warm your heart. See you in the next one.